Hello everyone, good evening. Welcome to the third episode of SEF Indisc Podcast, a podcast that can be your sad night soulmate. How's your day, guys? I hope you all doing well today. My name is Alya and I will accompany you to spend this sweet night with my partner, Diva. Hi, what's up, Diva?
Hi, what's up Arya and what's up everyone? So for today's podcast, you're going to join us in this little conversation. Get your snack or anything that make you feel cozy and relaxed.
Yes, that's right, because this episode is gonna be special with our coolest guest star who will join us tonight. Besides that, we also have an interesting topic to discuss. The topic is still related to diversity. Have you guys guessed it? Yes, that's great. Our topic today is about racism. Why can't we be equal?
Wow, that's gonna be a great topic to discuss.
Yes, of course, Diva. I'm sure all of you are already familiar with the word racism, right, guys? So, Diva, can you talk about racism?
Yes, racism is a difference in behavior and inequality based on skin color, race, ethnicity, and origin that limits or violates a person's rights and freedoms. Racist thinking can make a person have a bad prejudice against a particular race. This prejudice can have a negative impact on people who are discriminated against. Even racism unshared in many horrific events in world history.
Wow, I'm always curious. Just because we're different, why everyone has such thoughts? Moreover, racism occurs in almost every country. Alright, now we have Kak Arya who will join us to talk about this. Hello Kak, welcome to SEF Indisc Podcast. Thank you so much for coming as our first guest in this new season. How are you today, Kak?
Okay, hello Arya, Diva. I am very well, thank you. And how about you guys? I hope you guys are always well and excited to live a hectic life, and also thank you, SEF Unsoed, for inviting me on this amazing podcast. Hopefully, what we are discussing today on the topic of racism can be useful and at least give listener insight or maybe can increase their knowledge.
Thanks for your opportunity. Actually, an honor for us having you in this podcast. So guys, Kak Arya is Duta General Indonesia. He is very accomplished, won many essay and debate competition.
That's very cool. Okay, Kak Arya, I want to ask your opinion about this. Why are so many people still discriminating and justifying their actions?
Okay, thank you Arya for the question. Basically, I guess there are four aspects that can be called an act of racism, namely prioritizing, exclusion, differentiation or discrimination, and prohibition. For example, when you make discrimination to someone, in case like in a study group, there is one child who is a member of a group with a different religion, and the child is not invited to discuss because of difference he has. Even the small thing like that is classified as a form of racism. Or in another example, I believe that all of you guys often joke based on racism, right? You bring up religion, ethnicity, and race in your jokes, and in this situation, you feel what you're doing is right. At the end, why are you still discriminating, justifying, and feeling right in your action? The simple answer is because you don't know that what you are doing is an act of discrimination. You don't know that what you are doing is wrong. You don't know that what you are doing can hurt other people, and you don't know that what you are doing is a part of racism. Why? Because the root of the problem is about a behavioral habit and lack of education or knowledge. You know, guys, we were born and grow up in a society that accustomed racist act as an ordinary act, right? Our action and ways of thinking are shaped by society. So that it becomes a habit that we continue to carry to this day. This habit also is compounded by our lack of knowledge of racism. I believe most people who commit act of discrimination don't know that what they are doing is classified as a racist. Apart from the habits they have, this is also driven by a lack of knowledge. It will be a different story when we have good knowledge about racism. Even though we live in society that considers racism to be an ordinary act, but we will be able to control it because of the knowledge. We know that what we do is wrong. We know what we do can hurt other people. I think those are the two main factors why people are still discriminating and justifying and feeling right in their action, namely about behavioral habits and lack of knowledge.
So it turns out that there are many factors behind it, To make it clear, can you explain to us the example of discrimination based on races that is close to us?
Okay, good question, Diva. There are many acts of discrimination based on racism close to us. In fact, we often don't realize it. Action that we take for granted sometimes they are classified of discrimination. For example, when you discriminate against your friends because of their skin color, or you even feel that they are different and you should stay away from them, you are actually discriminating on the basis of race. Or in another example, Arya, Diva, or Alya come from different regions, right? Of course, we have our language characteristic. However, is this distinction a means for us to look down on another? Okay, maybe in the context of joking, everyone will assume that jokes about racism like skin color or language characteristic will be something common. But this is actually a mistake that becomes a habit. We never know how people feel. We never know how the people catch it, and we never know how the people conditions are. Joking based on racism will lead to discrimination because it is too sensitive. There are still other things that can be joked because there are many cases of discrimination that started as a joke and ended up being bullied. In a sense, there are many discriminatory behaviors that are close to us. If you see incident of exclusion or differentiation based on religion, ethnicity, race, language, skin color, or the etc., then this action can be suspect to be classified as discrimination based on racism.
Wow, your explanation makes us realize that racism still happens a lot in our daily life. Without even realizing, it maybe ever happened to us, or at least we've seen it. Right, guys?
Yes, I really hope we could be more aware of this problem because I'm sure it will give impacts to the victim. How are the impacts for them, Kak?
Okay, I think there are various negative impacts that can be received by a victim of racial discrimination, right? The impact is more related to mental health, such as loss of self-confidence, feeling isolated, and deep trauma. The negative impact will interfere with daily life of the victim, so that it will indirectly affect his social life. Apart from being a genre ambassador, I am also a peer counselor, so I received a lot of complaints from victims of racial discrimination. They said that discriminatory treatment they received was very painful. On average, the perpetrator who commit act of discrimination are their own and close friends who use racist material to joke. Even worse, the problems are not only limited to their mental health issue, but to the point that they lead to even more dangerous action, such as self-harm and suicide attempts. Why did they even think about committing suicide? Why did they even think about committing suicide? Of course, he can. Those who are discriminated against will feel that he is the worst human in the world and doesn't deserve to live anymore. The question that always arises in their minds is, do I deserve to live in this world? Do I deserve to live in this world? When the question arises, they need to friend to talk. But in this situation, they are still discriminated against and everyone stay away from them. Therefore, discrimination is very risky to take the life of the victim.
Oh, I'm really sorry to hear that. Is the impact only on the victims, Kak? Can it cause wider and bigger impacts, Kak?
Absolutely, yes. If racial discrimination is still considered normal and continues to occur in society, it will have a bigger and wider impact. The problems that occur are no longer focused on individuals, but will have an impact on society. For example, we live in a multicultural country, right? Like Indonesia, where there are various race, ethnicities, language, and religion. Of course, the many differences that Indonesia has must be integrated society. But the biggest challenge to integrate these differences is intolerance. Discrimination based on race is a form of intolerance that can trigger disintegration. There have been many incidents that have proven that discrimination will lead to conflict based on race. If a conflict occurs, the loss of life will also be something that cannot be avoided. Therefore, discrimination will have a bigger and wider impact on the sovereignty of a country, so that act of discrimination in any form, especially on the basis of race, must be stopped.
Yes, that's right, Kak. So guys, we need to pay attention to this. There are so many negative impact because of racism. We need to find a solution to stop racism. Do you have any tips for us to stay away from racism?
Okay, good question, Diva. I believe that racism is a serious problem that can be solved by partial action, right? But must be solved by comprehensive action. This means that the problem of racism can only be solved by one or two people. It can only be solved by Arya, Diva, or Alya. Therefore, we must have a one vision to stop racism and believe that racism is harmful. There are various steps that can be done as a solution to stop racism. First, the most important and basic things is about our knowledge of racism. At least we should know what racism is. How can racism happen? Why is racism so harmful? And who is vulnerable to being a victim of racism? We need to be able to understand this basic question, so that with sufficient knowledge about racism, it will be able to influence our behavior in action. Second one is about behavioral habits. We're living in a society that is accustomed to act of racism must begin to adapt this habit, right? With the knowledge we have, of course, we can control the action we take. Indeed, this action can't be done only once, but it takes habituation so that we get used to assuming that racism is wrong and should not be done. And the last one is to cultivate a sense of tolerance. You know, guys, discrimination occurs because it is triggered by difference. Therefore, it will be different story when everyone has a high sense of tolerance, respect each other, and considers everyone as equal. I believe that there's three actions such as increasing knowledge about racism, changing behavioral habits, and fostering a sense of tolerance are fundamental to being able to stop racism. Without these three fundamental things, racism will still exist and make a communal harm.
Okay, thank you, Kak. Those are great solutions. So, guys, please take note of it.
Yes, I have an inspirational quote for our today topic. Our dear Lord, a writer once said, "Is it not our differences that divide us? It is our inability to recognize, accept, and celebrate those differences."
It's a very touching quote, Diva. Unfortunately, that quote will close our conversations today.
Yes, Alya, I want to say thank you very much to Kak Arya for coming here and giving us a lot of sights. Maybe from you, Kak, is there any message for SEF Indisc Podcast listener?
Okay, once again, I would like to say thank you to Arya and Diva as announcer, and especially for SEF Indisc Podcast for having me in amazing discuss today. Hopefully, what we discussed today about racism and discrimination can provide usefulness and insight for you guys. Maybe in the last statement for me, I want to state one of the great quotes from Mahatma Gandhi about racism in his book, which states that our utility in rich unity in diversity will be the beauty, which means like that the diversity and differences that we have should not be used as an excuse to belittle each other, but use these differences as a starting point for us to unite and respect one another. Let's fight racism together. If not us, then who? We can when we are together. Thank you, Arya and Diva.
Thank you so much once again, Kak Arya. We also want to thank all the listeners for listening to our podcast. I hope after listening to our podcast tonight, you can appreciate every difference in terms of culture, race, skin color, and much more. Because we are born with the different characteristics, and that is what makes us special.
Yes, that's right. Stay tuned for the new episode and don't forget to follow us on Instagram, YouTube, and Spotify to always stay updated about our next episode. SEF Indisc Podcast, a podcast that can be your next soulmate. Goodbye!
Bye!